Welcome to another episode of Sync Riffs. My name's Charles from Blue Buddha, an LA-based sync agency here in Los Angeles. So happy to have a very special guest in the studio today. I want to welcome recording artist, singer-songwriter Lenka from Australia. Hey, Lenka, how's it going?
Hi everybody. Good, thanks. How are you, Charles?
Really, really good. And thank you so much for joining us today on the show. And we're going to have a great chat. And to kind of set things up, going to turn the hands of the clock back to 2008, when it was only MySpace, there was no IG, there was no Spotify, and we worked together, right? You
Yeah.
were in Sydney, you came to Los Angeles to start your music career, and if you could kind of take us back to that time
I
and
think it might
how
have
we
even been 2007 actually, because I came over to America in 2006 with Dakota Ring, a band that I was in an Australian band, and we played South by Southwest, and we met Tony George from Austrade, and I had a few solo demos that I wanted to branch out and do some work on a solo project. And Tony George hooked me up with a few industry people to connect with, like other writers and musicians, a lawyer, and yourself, Charles, to pitch for Sync, because he and everybody was saying to me, your music's very licensable, which I didn't know what that meant at the time. But before having, any deals signed or anything like that, or an album ready to go, I just basically had these demos. You got me, I think, 2 syncs on TV, which was really amazing. So when I came back to really work hard on my solo album and try to land a record deal, I actually had a song on TV. It was a show with Courtney Cox. I think it was called Dirt.
Correct, yes.
Yeah. And it was amazing. It's like I come over from Australia, just, sleeping on people's couches. It was actually on air when I hit town, and I watched it live, and I was like, that's my song. And I could say to people, I've got to sync, and it really helped me get the ball rolling. So thank you for believing me and landing me that sync so early on.
Oh, no. It was all in the music. I think the song was Follow, actually.
Yeah. It's never ended up on an album. It's never been released.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I've got a few of those floating around the place. Yeah. That's what happens.
Yeah, and
I guess
that
nobody's
was
really heard it.
and
No one's heard it unless they saw that show.
right. No, exactly. Because I remember, because you're right. You gave me, I think there was it was an early demo version of We Will Not Grow Old, perhaps, or I may be getting ahead of myself, but correct.
Yeah, I
And
was
then,
on that.
hmm and then Tangiers, you were playing Hotel Cafe, the prolific.
Another great person I had helping me out back then was Sia,
Mm,
big Sia fame, back when she was like a regular musician. She hooked up that gig at Tangiers, and
okay.
she helped out because I met her at a music festival in the UK, and gave her my demo as well, and we became friends, and she helped me meet a few people, and some of the couches that I was staying on were hers and her friends.
hmm
And she hooked up a few gigs, and she used to actually come and heckle me. I remember her being front and center at the Hotel Cafe, sort of yelling out stuff to try to put me off. I'm like,
No,
why?
oh my goodness.
She was being like a mentor, trying to toughen me up.
Right, right. So then fast forward a couple years, so then it was 2008 was the release of the show,
Mm.
which several tracks placed in Grey's Anatomy, Ugly Betty, Moneyball.
Mm.
So by then you had a label and a pub deal. You toured heavily for that record. And
Yeah.
then, so with that record, correct, particularly with that song, The Show, you were
Mm.
paired with, it was a collaboration because by then you had the pub deal.
Yeah. Pub deal came first, actually, for me.
Ah,
I signed my publishing deal with Sony ATV pretty early, and it kind of had the proviso that the record had to be released on a major label. And I didn't have a manager yet.
Oh.
Had a lawyer,
Oh.
who is still my lawyer. Wonderful guy,
Mhm.
David Costner. He's based in San Francisco. He was also a connection from Tony George,
Mhm.
and he just had that confidence in me and went out and got those deals and was like, "No, we'll definitely get you a record deal. Don't worry about it." There's a lot
Amazing.
of good
Yes.
serendipity for sure, because it could have not worked out. I've heard a lot of stories of people then getting released from their publishing deal if they didn't follow through with that.
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, so I ended up signing with Epic Records, and I did 2 records with them. And the first record had that song, The Show, which had a huge amount of syncs and was actually used as like I was like the poster girl for Sony ATV. I used to get people saying to me, we had a work conference and they played your song and they told us that we had to, that's how many syncs we were meant to be getting, kind of thing.
Wow.
So it was really getting a lot of stuff all around the world. Um,
Mhm.
and then I did another album with Epic, and there was a song on the second album called Everything at Once that ended up getting some good syncs as well,
Mhm.
but not during the promotion time of the record. In fact, I may have even been dropped from my deal by the time this song Everything at Once got this huge. No, I think I was still with them. Just,
Oh.
I was like hanging by a thread, and it got
Mhm.
that song got a Windows 8 commercial that came out of Asia, and it wasn't worldwide, but it was in a bunch of different territories.
Mhm.
And that launched that song actually. And even though I felt like, so I was pregnant and had a small baby, had been
Mhm.
dropped or had parted ways mutually with Epic,
Uh-huh.
was thinking I was going to be taking a bit of a break, but had a number 1 song in Poland,
Mm.
Turkey, Germany, Russia, India, Sri Lanka, China, and had to, kind of hit the road and do a bit of touring to support that based off the back of a sync.
Amazing, amazing. I mean, and that song still stands the test of time. I cannot tell you like how many times through the years, and I kid you not, Best Buy, Trader Joe, I would be in a store and that
Oh, yeah.
song would be playing in the background. It was just a reminder of along with the video and the storytelling. Tell us about that. Where was that video shot? It was here in Los Angeles, I would imagine.
No, is this the black and white dancing video for Everything at Once? Is
No,
that the
for
video
for
for the
for
show?
actually for the show.
The
Hmm.
show. Yeah, the video for the show was shot in LA, and it's the biggest budget thing I ever did. It was a big, great production, full crew.
Hmm.
It was like a 3-day shoot and night shoot. Um, it was downtown LA,
Okay.
and I was doing harness stuff, so we had a stunt team, and
Uh,
it was really fun. I loved it. Yeah,
yeah, because correct. If I remember correctly, there were a lot of scenes. You'd be sitting on a park bench or something, and then you would be plucked up into the air and
yeah,
taken to a new scene.
that's right. Like the concept was that I wasn't in control of my life.
Hmm.
And I was getting pulled away before I was ready and plonked into a new situation. That was the sort of visual
Mm.
metaphor for the song, which I wrote with Jason Reeves, who's done a
Hmm.
lot of co-writing. He's great at co-writing with chicks. He wrote Bubbly with Colby Calais and those kinds of
Okay.
like, I don't know, what do you call it? Like singer-songwriter, adult contemporary kind of acoustic music. He has his own
Hmm.
career as well. He's a Nashville guy. But we
Hmm.
wrote the show at Sony back when it was in Santa Monica, Sony ATV. They had
Uh-huh.
offices there and they had a room with a piano in it. It was their boardroom, but it was kind of their writer's room. But it wasn't a studio. It was just, there was a piano and Jason brought his guitar in and it took us an hour and a half to write that song. And we were both
Wow.
really stressed out. And we are just like, hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. What's going on in your life? Oh my God, I'm so stressed out. It's like life is like just this show that's happening and I don't know what's going on kind of thing. That's what it felt like. Everything was moving so fast and we just bashed out that song so quick.
Amazing. And now, what was the origin of So the song closes out with the line of, I want my money back. I want my money
Yeah.
back. Welcome to the show, right? I believe.
Yeah. It's like life has given you a raw deal and you're not happy with what you got. It's very fun singing that live because
Mhm.
I ask the audience to sing it, but I usually make a joke like, "You're not getting your money back for this show." It's a metaphor.
Yes. Very nice. No, and that's a good segue, Lenka, because similarly, what pulls at my heartstrings and visually and vocally what you did in your song "We Will Not Grow Old" and the animation, or is it stop? What's it?
Stop
Yeah,
motion animation, yeah,
yes.
cutouts, yeah. Yeah, fun. Me and my husband, James, then boyfriend, now husband, we didn't really have much to do. We just had time on our hands and we were traveling and trying to get me a record deal and trying to get him an art career and just basically just making our art
Uh,
and very sort of clear on our visual style and we actually wrote a manifesto called We Will Not Grow Old about
oh,
like naive
cool.
art and it suits my music style and it suits his art style. This is what his art looks like now.
Very
The
nice. Cool.
idea of when you're making a piece of art, not trying to make it too sophisticated, allowing
Mm,
some of that naivety and wonderment to come through and that childlike quality. We felt that that was really quite powerful and important. And that was what we wanted to do. We wanted to express ourselves in that way. And we felt like it would keep us sort of more alive and bring that vitality because you're not kind of getting heavy and I'm a grown up mature person and I want to make this really sophisticated music or this really sophisticated art. We didn't
mhm,
like that idea. So we were just making everything ourselves.
mhm.
The original We Will Not Grow Old video was made in Paris. James was doing an art residency at the Cité des Arts, which means, you get maybe a little bit of cash, very little, but you get a free room and studio on the banks of the River Seine in Paris
Oh.
for 3 months. And I was like, I'm coming. And we had to sleep in these little, two little cots, metal beds with a really thin mattress. And we had a tiny little kitchenette and he had a huge, beautiful studio. And
Ah,
so I had nothing to do
uh-huh.
besides, muck around writing songs and eating croissants. So we made that I don't know, was that one paper art or was that one just us? Was it? I can't remember. We just walked around the streets of Paris taking millions and millions of photographs and then editing them. And there's a
Amazing.
there's a video for the show. There's the first video that we made for the show is like that too. And there's one
Mhm.
for Trouble Is a Friend. We made
Mm,
a silhouette paper shadow kind of play one. We made that
mhm,
in Montreal when I was working
mhm.
on my album. Now James is too busy, I'm sorry to say, and I can barely get him to work on my album art. He's a pretty successful commercial illustrator and artist now, so I don't get to just have him do all the hard labor anymore for free.
So it falls back on you, I surmise.
Mm. Yeah, but the style is still pretty similar.
Uh-huh.
I'm struggling with that now a bit, to be honest, because I'm 45 and I don't think it's really that cute to be portraying that childlike
Yeah.
style so much anymore. I'm like, how do I go from that into, a bit more womanly and mature, but still
Uh-huh.
keep that essence alive? Like, it's just the natural way that I am. And most of my songs
Mhm.
kind of turn out like that. I just can't help myself. I'm working on an album right now
Uh-huh.
and it's quite it's a bit more beatsy and dancey and I'd say the production is a bit more sophisticated, less of your kind of acoustic pianos and trumpets and guitars and glockenspiels, and more kind of like synths and harps and bass and nice complicated drums and things like that,
Mhm.
grand
Mhm.
piano, electric guitar. Um, but I still just can't resist, like when I'm doing things like harmonies, it
Mm.
just comes out like a little cute chipmunk, and I'm like, I'm sorry, it's just who I am, and the songs are who you are, right? So,
Mhm.
I've evolved a bit, I think, style
Mhm.
wise, but in some ways I haven't changed at all.
I mean, your recent single that came out in April of this year, "One Moment," I would say
Hmm.
is very it has those qualities of your earlier works.
Yeah.
And tell us about Correct. There was in the intro, there was a choir bit from some school
Mm.
children.
Yes, it's my son's choir at school, and he's in year 5. So you guys would call that, I don't know, elementary school. He's
Yes.
11. So last year he was 10, and they did a performance. So it was actually like open day. They call it Grandparents' Day at his school. And it was the
Ah,
first one since COVID. So it was in towards the end of the year in 2022. And they finally let all the parents and grandparents onto the school to do like a big assembly and go see all the classrooms. And the choir performed at the assembly, and they performed a song. I can't remember the song, but anyway, I remember
mhm.
that like it was so touching because children's voices, just gorgeous, like little angels.
Yes.
B, all these grandparents in the audience, quite a lot of people tearing up, having a
Hmm.
little happy tear, being
Mm-hmm.
so proud. And then I was watching them have hugs with their grandkids and with their kids, and
Oh,
little Johnny, so proud of you, having a hug. And I just got this inspiration to write this
mhm.
song,
Yes.
and also was kind of like, light bulb moment. I have access to a children's choir right now. Like I
Yeah.
should take advantage of the fact that I can just come in here. Well, I asked permission, of course, and the
Sure.
school were really excited about it. They thought it was a great opportunity. They said, "Oh, that would be an absolute honor." So I wrote the song that afternoon when I went home, real quick.
Hmm.
And this is how inspiration happens sometimes, right? You're just like, "Oh, I've got an idea," and out it comes.
Yeah.
And soon after that, so we then I recorded it in Sydney with Dave Jenkins Jr., a producer I've been working with a lot, who's also the drummer in my band when I
Hmm.
tour on this side of the world. Um, and then we went into the library at the school, and there was 50
Oh,
kids that had learnt the song. The choir leader
okay.
had taught them. The choir leader is also the librarian, so it was so cute. We went to the library so that it was like all the books were kind of the soundproofing, and we just
Oh,
recorded them
amazing.
singing in there. Yeah, it was really sweet. I loved the
Mm.
experience, and I think that it adds a little something to the
Excuse me.
book.
No, and that's
But it's
wicked. So it
basically
sounds
just
like,
a song about having a hug, is what it is.
yeah. So correct. Same with that song. I would imagine your creative process. It just kind of depends whether if you have the melody or the hook or the chorus sorted out, and then if you work with a collaborator, then you'll sort of have them flesh out you know the remainder of the track. But for the most part, do you kind of have the vision already sorted out?
Mm. Yeah, that I wrote that one by myself.
Uh-huh.
Um, Gosh, it just came out so quick. I can't even remember how. It was a really easy one. Sometimes songs take a bit longer to get your verses written, um,
Hmm.
but that one was super quick. But yeah, I suppose that method, which was also a seer tip of
Uh-huh.
getting that one image or metaphor
Excuse me.
or
Hmm.
kind of that one point that you're making in your hook, and
Yep.
then whatever that is, you then flesh out into the verses and keep using symbols that belong in the world of that. But I often like to have a little bit of a narrative journey
Hmm.
going on in my songs. Like my music is usually very therapeutic to myself. Like I write songs to make myself feel better and hopefully other people.
Yeah.
So it usually starts with a problem, and the chorus is kind of like the solution or the comforting, it's going to be okay thing. And then the second verse kind of fleshes out the problem. Um, and usually the bridge is sort of a tangent from the problem, or perhaps like another element to the solution of the problem. So that's my own personal method that I don't know if I got that from anywhere. It's just kind of what I like to do. So then during the writing of the song is when I make myself feel better. which is also why often my choruses are quite like major chords and kind of happy sounding melodies, because I'm trying to make myself feel better.
100%, 100%. And correct, not only piano, but you play the guitar as well.
No, I don't actually. Ukulele. I got really
Ukulele.
small hands. I have to play the
Okay.
I can't play the guitar. I'm sorry to say.
I stand corrected, ukulele.
Mm.
Um, but Southeast Asia, weren't you recently on tour? Okay, so Southeast Asia, you're recently touring there, and
Mhm.
I know a lot of correct your fan base from a lot of the airplay. A lot of is it in Thailand, Southeast Asia?
Mhm. Yeah, I had a few radio hits in Thailand, yeah. But all around that area, I've got a really amazing fan base that, much to the credit of Sony Music, back in 2009, they did a really amazing campaign, really like building up a grassroots fan base. And I went over, which I think was rare at that time. I don't think that many Western artists were going over to Asia around that time from America. I
Hmm.
mean, I was going over from America with an American label, even though I'm Australian.
Uh-huh.
And I would play, little kind of radio shows and to appearances in malls. And they did awesome stuff like art competitions where I would judge the painting of these like fans, and they just really honored the kind of the fan club and helped it grow in the times when I wasn't there. And when I was there, it really like built up some good frenzy, and it really worked. I had
Nice.
lots of radio hits, and I still have a very passionate fan base there, which is great.
Hmm.
Now it's kind of moved into China a bit. So the
Okay.
Southeast Asia is still pretty good, but I hadn't toured there for ages. This year I played Indonesia, Malaysia, and Hong Kong, but that was the first time I'd actually played that region since probably like 2013 or something like that. But every
Wow.
year up until the pandemic, I've been going to China once or twice a year and playing
Wow.
music festivals or doing my own like concert hall tours. Very different to most gigs, like sit down, like dun
Hmm.
dun 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 dun, like the show is about to begin. No,
Uh-huh.
no bar, no
Wow.
opening act. Like a sit down concert in a theater, um,
Yeah.
which has been really amazing, and playing really fantastic festivals as well. And I'm going
Hmm.
back over to China this year in August, September, doing 4 shows.
Amazing. Very nice. Because it sounds like I think I saw on IG you shared some of the footage touring. It was nonstop, right?
Yeah, well, you got to do it nonstop. I mean, maybe if you're like super rich, you can afford to take breaks and, hang at the spa. But otherwise, you've got to kind of, yeah, usually, like, I think we had one day off. Like, we did 4 shows
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
5 days, maybe, I think, for
Wow.
that Southeast Asia tour. And that's the same as what we'll do in China, which means, unfortunately, you are flying day of show. Like, you get up in the morning, go to the airport super early, fly to a different country, and then play that night, which isn't
Wow.
ideal. Yeah. But they're all pretty close together. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
no, it sounds like, and just out of curiosity, but safe to say your touring band, most likely it's local Australian artists that the
yeah,
new
they're
nucleus.
Sydney.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Wow.
take 3 guys from Sydney when I do those big shows in Asia.
Uh-huh.
Or I'll use 2 guys if it's a smaller show. But I'm coming over to America and playing a couple of shows later this year, and I'm going to
Uh-huh.
use some LA guys who play with Ben Lee. I've
Oh,
got like
cool.
my old band. I'm still friends with my old band that used to play with me all through those Sony years, those epic years.
Uh-huh.
But they've all kind of moved on a bit. Some of them don't tour anymore. They're
Mm.
all, still dabble in music. One of them, actually, my old bass player, Eric Curtis, is in Michael Bublé's band, and he's in Australia right now, and I'm going to have breakfast with him on the weekend.
Very
So,
nice.
yeah, it's really nice. I'm still in touch with them, but I haven't asked them to play. And like our generation, like everyone's kind of parents now. So
Uh-huh.
I've gone and found some like younger dudes that are not at that stage in life yet and still super keen
Right.
to like get out there and play gigs and don't mind being in dive bars and stuff like that.
Right. No, that's a fascinating point because, when you came up in the industry here in Los Angeles, hotel cafe,
Mm.
so artists like yourself or Lizzie, you know, it's
Hmm.
sort of the numbers or Carey Brothers, those numbers are
Yeah.
far and few between. So,
Katy Perry came out of there.
that's
She was a hotel
right.
cafe girl, but she quickly signed a pop deal and became less singer-songwritery, more kind of uber pop.
Huh.
But I believe the hotel cafe has it kind of changed vibe a bit, or is that still happening there? Is it still open?
It's still open. They expanded. There's like some additional rooms.
Does Marco
It-
still run it? He was the
It's.
guy.
I think he did. Yeah, I wouldn't be if I'm not mistaken. And their vibe is still. They still skew, the singer songwriting vibe. So it's
Mm.
still. It's still. Yeah,
And
it's
it's
still
about
going strong.
launching. I did play there like 8 years ago or something, so it's a while ago now. But it definitely had the vibe of launching artists, like showcase. Like this is a place that you can
Yes.
come and do an industry showcase. They had like 2 or 3 shows a night that were separately ticketed, and it was always the way back in that time. And this is the way for any up and coming artists. You basically got
Mhm.
to bring your audience. Like they say to you, if you don't get 70 people in here, like
Right.
we're not paying you, or you have to pay I think you have to pay them basically if you
Yeah.
don't get that many numbers. So you're basically begging your friends to come and like paper the audience, like just please be there. I need you to
Yes.
buy beers from the bar.
Yeah, no, I think it still holds true today. So before I
Yeah,
forget, did you ever do gigs in Tokyo at all?
I did have the opportunity once, which was amazing. I played at
Yeah.
the Summer Sonic Festival in 2009 or 2010, and it was in
Wow.
Tokyo and Osaka. And there was just like a few little artists on the bill, like Beyonce, Lady Gaga. It was no big deal. It was
Right.
so cool. And we
Nice.
did an exhibition. That's why we wrote the manifesto, actually. James and I did an exhibition in an art gallery in
Oh.
Tokyo as well, coinciding with the festival. And I have like a few fans there, but I don't know if it's enough for me to go and do my own show as much as I would
Mm.
love to. They
Hmm.
gave it a go. Sony
Uh-huh.
Japan has its own offices. And
Yep.
I remember them saying to me, we'll give anything a go. Like they promoted me. I did a bunch of promo over there because they have no idea what's going to hit in Japan. It could be some obscure metal band from Arkansas and it just, hits and becomes massive.
Yeah.
I did not become massive. I'm not big in Japan, unfortunately, but I do have a few Japanese people that definitely
Mm.
comment on socials and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up because that's fascinating because, bands like Pizzicato 5 or Shona Knife, big
never
here
heard
states. Yeah, no,
of
exactly. It's like
it.
they're from Japan, but they were big here in America, but not
Okay, okay,
worldwide.
not in
So
Japan, right? Yeah,
yeah, and I think like Pizzicato
I know
5 was
it's
on Matador
weird.
Records, but you're right, still indie here in
Yeah.
stateside, but not a household name.
There's
But
there's definitely local scenes, even though we live in such a globalized world, and for the biggest artists in the world are worldwide, and most of the social media and stuff is worldwide. I think there still is local tastes, and each territory is different. I know lots of
yes.
people that are massive in Australia, and no one's ever heard of them overseas, and vice versa.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because correct, in Australia, is it Triple J Radio is the main radio station to break
Yeah,
indie
and they're
bands?
extremely powerful. And for example, for me, they never played me. They've never played my solo music,
Mm.
and that is like pretty damaging to your career. Like it's quite hard to sustain a career without Triple J. And I know so many people that are in this situation where they're like, "Oh, it's like so hard. If only Triple J would play me."
Mm.
They've got a fan base, they're touring and stuff, but for some reason, Triple J's like it's kind of like a mix between like KCRW, but it's gotten quite. It's not commercial. It's part of the ABC, which is like PBS, or, it's like a government funded radio station, but it's a
Yes.
total tastemaker. And
Right.
they pride themselves on being super cool. And they promote shows and stuff like that. Like, they're quite a big organization.
Hmm.
But they just completely rejected my music when it was sent to them from Sony. They said it was too pop. And now when I listen to it, I'm like, oh my God, it's so pop. Like, they play Charlie XCX and stuff now. I'm like, what? How can you say? Anyway,
Sure.
nothing you can do. But
Yeah.
they did play Decoder Ring, the band that I used to be in. We were in the like Triple J Hottest 100, which you may have
Hmm.
heard of. It's like, that's kind of like, lots of American bands get into it too. That's really what everybody wants. It's fan voted, so it's a real reflection of what people like. And I've
Hmm.
been in the Triple J Hottest 100 a couple of times, but not with Lenka songs, just with
Sure.
collaborations, like with other
I
bands and
see.
stuff. Yeah.
Yes. No, it's well, now that we're working back together with your new material, so obviously with Sync, I had sent out the music once we had it, and a lot of the music supervisors were so ecstatic. They're like, yes, new
Oh,
music.
great.
Yeah, and independent, so correct. And that's released on your own Skip Along Records.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very cool. And for the rest of the year, for listeners and for music supervisors, we'll be sharing this episode with. So basically, the plan for the rest of the year, putting out singles.
I think the plan will be that I'll put out the album with one more single, maybe just before it, and a video
Mhm.
in around August, so that when I come over, I'm doing shows in like um, October 1st and 8th. I'm
Yes,
playing in the States. So that'll be like in support of that record. I haven't
very
decided
nice.
what the single's going to be. The fun thing about being independent is the fun and difficult thing is it's completely up to you. And I don't have anybody breathing down my neck. I have to breathe down my own neck, which is very difficult, Charles. You know, come on, girl, hurry up. So that self-motivation is a struggle, I find, especially as a parent and living in a country town. I'm like,
Mm.
okay, I have to like book in time to go up to Sydney and be in a studio, which I absolutely love. I have to, oh, sorry,
No worries.
let me, I have to, reserve budget. It's all self-funded, but it's so wonderful. I think it's probably preferable for me
Hmm.
to do it this way. But I did love the process of being with a label as well when it is a bit more collaborative.
Mm.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the plan. It's a full album. I haven't released a full album for quite a while. It's going to be 11 tracks.
Oh, wow. Very exciting. No, that's
Yeah.
and then correct, yes. So one date in New York, one in Los Angeles in
Yes.
October.
Yeah. So please come along. We tried to make it more extensive, but it just
Ah,
didn't feel quite doable at the moment. I might try and do that another year.
yes. Okay, very nice. Well, that's so exciting. I can't wait to and then safe to say, obviously, a mix of your evergreen songs and then the new
Of
material,
course.
or is it just gonna be all new material, or a little bit
God,
of?
no. No, I'll definitely play
Oh.
the old songs. I think that would be so cruel. My fans would boo me off the stage. No, it's like I've got
Yeah.
7 albums now, so it's
Yes.
kind of like
Wow.
there's not that much freedom in picking the set list, because once you go through and pick the single from each album, or the most popular songs from each album, the songs that
Hmm.
I love to play,
Hmm.
then there's only a couple left for like random wildcards, and you're done. But
Mm.
it's going to be
Yeah,
really
that's so
fun.
true, and that's a lot of albums to cull through and kind of figure out what that set list is going to be.
I know, and I can't even remember them anymore. I have to go onto my own Spotify and look through and be like, "Oh yeah, that song. That'd be good to do."
Right. Well, that said, I mean, correct. So if you were to play Follow, there a lot of people, because I don't think that track can even be streamed, right?
That is a deep cut. That is a deep
Yeah.
cut B-side.
Uh,
I don't know if it has been released, but I have been thinking about releasing like some rarities at some point. So
mm.
that might be what I'll do after this album of new material, because, you know, you kind of need a couple of years to work on the next album. So maybe in the meantime, I'll go through, and there's a few songs that I know certain people love that haven't
Yeah.
actually been released. And nowadays you can't get them in any other way. I don't do like Bandcamp or SoundCloud or anything like that. So I do actually have to follow through and release them on streaming services if people want to be able to listen to them. But how am I going to listen to a demo from like 15, 20 years ago and not want to completely rewrite it and change it? I just don't know if I have that in me.
Yes.
Accept it with all that evolvement and life journey along the way.
Right. But
It'll
the
be fun.
opportunity, though, yeah. I mean, to thread the
Yeah.
needle, your
Yeah.
songwriting, bar none, and obviously with sync, there's that opportunity because with certain shows that are, you know, in that era, if it
Yeah.
has that right hook and sound, it could be sync pitchable.
True. Be hilarious if we release it and get to sync again. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
How is everybody in your industry feeling about AI? Are you shaking in your boots? Is it like annoying?
Well, as far as the musicians go, I mean, the talk around the town, you know, it's too early to say, you know, some on the one hand, some people are saying, you know, look at it as a tool to help, you know, it's
Yeah.
another tool in the toolbox, but it's not there yet where it'll
Come
completely
up with
replace.
lyrics or something like that.
Right. Yes.
But what about like a client going, we want to do this car ad and we want a Fleet Foxes type song. AI, go make us a Fleet Foxes type song with the words freedom, open road. You know, like that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, and it's a good question. You know, I had this chat with a coworker the other day, and it's what's still lacking and it's not there yet is, you know, the soul of it comes out and it sounds like music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're safe. There was a funny meme on
Mm.
that's been going around that's more for the visual creatives that says, "Don't worry, guys. Like for AI to work, the user needs to be very specific in their instructions. We're safe."
Yeah.
Because notoriously clients never know what they want. So it does take that human touch. But I know that it's like a big
Yeah.
story with Hollywood screenwriters at the moment, and
Yes.
that's what is being argued is
Hmm.
what worth is a real human. So hopefully, safe to say, there
Hmm.
is some worth there, and it can't just be a bot churning out, you know,
Right.
cheap versions of stuff.
It was a great chat, Lenka. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I really appreciate you. And thanks for spending the time with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charles. Very enlightening. All the best.
All the best. Cheers. And everybody, we'll catch you next week on Sync Riffs.
Go.